Hey guys, so here is option 2. So I showed you the markers with water, and now this is just the straight watercolor, and this is going to be pretty self-explanatory. You're going to start the same way by starting with the flowers, but you're going to straight up paint them. So taking the paints and literally painting your flowers by hand the way you want them to be. Letting the watercolor kind of do its thing. Again, making sure not to have too much pigment. I just picked up a bunch there, but I'm going to spread it out. So you don't want too much pigment on your brush, and you still want to tickle your paper. Just like we would talk about as if we were in class. I realized I didn't make a center of my flower there, so that was probably a bad idea, but we'll come back to that one later. I'll let it dry for a little bit. Let's see, we talked about tulips and things, so I'm going to go ahead and grab some red and make those petal-like shapes in those tulips. Need a little bit more water here. And then if I wanted to make a tulip that's got multiple colors in it, I could add in those striations or stripes to that color. So I just added a little bit of yellow to that one. Let's see, I'm trying to kind of duplicate everything I made with the other project, or the other version of this project, I should say. So I'm going to make big fat poppy leaves. Or leaves, petals, sorry. All right. Then I'm going to go ahead and fill in, but leave some area for some black in the middle. So with this watercolor version, there is no magic trick like I did with the marker. It's just straight watercolor. So as much as you want to paint is as much as what's going to be in the background. You're going to have some crisper images with the watercolor for the most part. You're not going to have that kind of soft, more like abstract, modern-y art look to the flowers and to the background. So it's completely your choice. It is your project. It's always your choice with how you want to finish your project. So for these hyacinths, sorry, I was concentrating for a second. I'm just adding kind of like little dabs with these, kind of more with the side of my brush. And then I'm going to let the white of the paper kind of fill in the rest of the information on here. I'll switch to some blue. So I'm stacking it almost like kind of like a pyramid or bowling pins, where I'm kind of adding more to each row as I go. And then I could kind of mix. I'm going to drop in some purple in here and let it kind of blend together, just to change it up just a little bit. And then I'm going to make a big old sunflower, I think. I didn't make one before, and I love sunflowers. I grow them in my garden every summer. Last summer, we had one that was 10 feet tall. It was sort of crazy. I was sort of famous in the neighborhood for my crazy big sunflower, but it was weird because it was the only really tall one that grew. But it kind of cheered everybody up and gave them something to look at when they were taking their walks through the neighborhood. So I wanted to make sure I filled up my background a little bit more, hence why my sunflower is going to be nice and big. And I'm being very cautious around my hyacinth because I want to leave some background space in there. Whoop. I did what I was trying not to do, was touching it, but I could go back and touch it up later if I need to. Clean up that purple and the yellow. But I'm going to go and take some brown for the center of my sunflower. Kind of place that in there. And then I'm going to even get a little bit of black and kind of drop in some dots just to give that center seed section a little bit more detail and texture. All right, I probably want to start thinking about greeneries and how I'm going to add that in. I do want to go back to my little purple guy over here. I'm going to make the center blue, even though that's not really probably natural at all. And then I'm going to add in some kind of striation. So creative freedoms, right? Like if it doesn't turn out exactly how you want it, adjust it to your liking. Add a little texture in there. Okay. So now I can take my greens and really kind of think about, what do I want to do with them? Where do I want to add? Where do I want more? Where do I want less? Still thinking kind of more abstractly here. Don't forget to use multiple greens. Mix some blue into a green to get more options. Let's see, my tulip is technically in front of my sunflower. I made those big tulip leaves on my marker one, so I want to fill in a little bit there. And then I can just add sort of green grass kind of floating around. So you've got to be a little bit more cautious with the watercolor. Like I just got this reds just seeped into my green a little bit. So you might want to work a little slower than how I'm working today. Let things dry in between if you want to have a little bit more control about where your paint is going and how much is going there and where your colors are mixing. So I talked about using a little bit of turquoise, so I better add a little bit of that, but not too much. Don't want it to look super unnatural at all. All right, I've got a little spill here, so how can I fix that? Let's see, I've got a paper towel hiding over here. I'm going to take a small piece of paper towel, and I'm just going to gently kind of soak this up, and it's basically because I have a little pool of brown here, and I have a bubble in my paper. So I can go back and add just a little bit of yellow over the top and just kind of rub that out. But the good news is I think my animal will cover that up. Let me reach and grab one. So I'm going to kind of hold this over the top. Yeah, my animal most likely will cover that up. Now, I did a really big fox, so now I'm noticing that I probably need to put a little bit more color up here if I'm going to cover it with the fox. The bunny is going to show a little bit more color. So it really depends on how big you drew for your animal is how much is going to show in the background. So you really do need to kind of test things out, think about it before you start too. I'm going to pretend like this tulip is kind of like going off the edge of the paper there, but I think it works. And I could even add some red to it, just kind of change it up. All right, I think that works. And then I might want to add a little bit more green kind of coming off the side, pick up a different green. Maybe even pick up the turquoise a little bit and let that come in. Almost looks like there's some a plant kind of coming from the side of the paper, which I like. So I've shown you a bunch of different options. Oop, I got to finish my poppy down here. No matter which one you choose, whether you do the marker or the watercolor, you do need to definitely think about where your animal fits, what flowers you want to do, what kind of look do you want it to have when you are all done. And that's going to help kind of guide you along the way in your process. Either way, it's going to be beautiful. Even if you make a mistake, right? Like you can turn it into something else, turn a drip into a new flower. It's totally up to you. So if you really enjoy watercolors, grab that watercolor piece of paper and go to town like I did. If you want to try something different that maybe you haven't tried before, grab those markers and get this more like kind of washed out, kind of softer looking flower black background, and I used my tag board for that. So that's that thick smooth paper in your kit. Both of them are going to curl and get a little bit rounded, so you might need to flatten them out once they're dry, but overall I'm really excited to put the finishing touches on this tomorrow. You do have a few options once everything's dry, so I'll show you that in our next video.